You know that classic image of creativity, right? A lightning strike, a sudden eureka moment that only happens to geniuses? But what if it's not magic? What if it's actually a process, a set of skills that, yeah, anyone can learn and use? Okay, let's get into it. So that's the big question for today. Are these incredible ideas just magic? Or is there a method to the madness? We're going to look at three world-changing inventions and break down how they actually happened. And spoiler alert, it wasn't magic. It was a clear, repeatable method. And this is going to be our map for the journey. I know it might look a little complex at first glance, but this diagram shows the fundamental building blocks of creativity, skills like observation, pattern recognition, and synthesis. We're about to see how three legendary inventors used these exact skills, whether they realized it or not, to create something totally extraordinary. First up, let's talk about an appliance that's probably sitting in your kitchen right now. And its invention? Well, it wasn't cooked up in some high-tech lab meeting. Nope, it all started with a melted candy bar. You can just picture it, can't you? This quote from the inventor himself, Percy Spencer, it just puts you right there in the moment. It wasn't some glamorous breakthrough. It was just a mess. But what he did next, that's the part that changed everything. So here is the scene. It's 1946. Percy Spencer is in the lab working with some seriously powerful radar tech. He's a little hungry, reaches into his pocket for his snack, and finds a gooey, melted disaster. Now, most of us, we'd probably just be annoyed and toss it, but not Spencer. And right there, that's the first key creative skill we're talking about, observation. He didn't just experience a melted candy bar, he observed it. He actually paid attention to this weird little accident, this thing that wasn't supposed to happen, and he asked a super simple question. Why did that happen? So what does he do? His curiosity kicks in, and he starts experimenting. Famously, he put an egg under the machine's tube, and it exploded all over the place. But then, a little more carefully, he started trying other foods. And this is where the next skill really comes into play. See, he wasn't just making a bigger mess. He was starting to see a pattern. This wasn't a one-time fluke. The microwaves coming from his radar equipment were consistently and very, very quickly heating up food. One melted candy bar, that's an accident. A bunch of different foods all cooking rapidly, that's a phenomenon you can count on. And here's where it all comes together in this final brilliant leap. He made a connection between two totally separate worlds, high-powered military radar technology and, cooking lunch. That's the creative spark, taking something that exists for one purpose and seeing a brand new use for it. It's a process, observation, pattern recognition, and making connections. All right, let's shift gears. Our next story didn't come from a high-tech lab at all. It came from nature. And this is an idea that, well, it literally stuck. I just love how simple this origin story is. There's no complex machinery, no scientists in lab coats. It's just a guy, his dog, and a casual hike through the woods. So, just like Percy Spencer with his melted candy, George de Mestral could have just been annoyed. I mean, these prickly burrs were all over his pants, all over his dog. But instead of getting frustrated, he got curious. He didn't just pick them off and forget about them. He took one home to figure out how it worked. That little switch from being annoyed to being fascinated, that's everything. And here's a really cool skill at play: feature extraction. When de Mestral put that burr under a microscope, he wasn't just looking at a piece of a plant. He was analyzing it like an engineer. He was extracting its key feature, these thousands of tiny, perfect hooks that could latch onto anything with a loop, like the fabric of his pants or his dog's fur. And this led him to this incredibly powerful idea called biomimicry. I mean, why try to invent something totally from scratch when nature has already spent millions of years perfecting it? His plan was as simple as it was brilliant. He was just going to copy nature's design. So this is the big idea moment, right? Ideation. The idea wasn't just, hey, hooks are neat. It was way bigger. It was, what if I could make a fastener with two sides? One side with stiff little hooks, just like the burr, and the other side with soft little loops, just like my pants. And boom, that is the birth of Velcro. Okay, for our last story, we're jumping ahead to an invention that wasn't about one single new component. It was about seeing the future by putting existing pieces together in a way nobody had thought of before. This story is absolutely legendary. Steve Jobs takes a tour of Xerox PARC, their research center, and he sees something that, frankly, Xerox themselves didn't fully get. He saw a visual way to use a computer. No more typing in confusing text commands. Now, he didn't invent it, but he was the first person to truly see its staggering potential for the entire world. This really shows you the massive change he saw coming. Back then, computers were for experts, for people who were willing to learn a whole special language just to use them. The graphical user interface, the GUI, made it intuitive. You could just point your mouse and click on a picture. It was a leap from being for a few specialists to being for absolutely everyone. But he didn't stop there. He was always collecting ideas, like puzzle pieces. He saw the power of the GUI at Xerox. He got inspired by the incredible graphics technology from his work at Pixar. He then took those pieces, put them together, and created the Macintosh. And years later, he used the exact same skill to create the iPhone, combining a phone, an iPod, and an internet device into one thing. And that, right there, brings us to our final core skill, synthesis. This is the art of combining existing ideas, things that often seem totally unrelated, to create something brand new and way more powerful. Jobs was an absolute master of this. He was brilliant at connecting the dots that nobody else even saw were on the same page. So we've looked at a microwave, a fastener, and a computer. What's the common thread here? What have we actually learned? Let's bring it all together and take a look at the toolkit you now have at your disposal. Hey, remember our map from the beginning? It should make a whole lot more sense now. You can see how Percy Spencer used observation and pattern recognition, how George de Mestral used feature extraction and ideation, and how Steve Jobs was a master of synthesis and making connections. They were all using different parts of the very same universal process. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that creativity isn't some magical gift. It's a muscle you can train. It's about paying attention, noticing the melted candy bars in your own life. It's about looking for patterns and really understanding how things work. And maybe most importantly, it's about having the guts to combine old ideas in new ways to create something the world has never seen before. The process isn't a secret anymore. The tools that these incredible inventors used are available to all of us. So really, there's only one question left. Now that you have the toolkit, what problem are you going to solve? You've got the map. Go discover something new.